Hello everybody and welcome back to week number 5 here in the 2017 college football season. We are moving on with our predictions this year, and of course we will be looking back on the picks from last week, breaking down those games a little bit, and then going ahead with some predictions for this week. This week will actually be our lightest load so far. There are 3 top 25 matchups this week, but not a whole lot going on outside of those. So here's a quick look at the 7 games that I will be predicting later on in this video once we get through the recaps from last week's predictions. So last week, the first game that we had was actually our upset alert of the week as well. We had number 23 Utah going on the road as 3.5-point favorites to take on Arizona. I liked Arizona in this game. It was a night game. Utah hadn't really had an impressive win. They didn't look that great. They were road favorites. They were the ranked team coming in against an unranked Arizona. And at the end of the day, they end up pulling it out and hanging on. Utah wins 30-24. So we got the pick wrong and the spread wrong. Arizona actually had a chance late to win the game. They ended up scoring a touchdown with 2:44 left to go down 6. And then they get the ball back with 2 minutes left in the game and immediately throw a turnover 3 plays later to end the game. So Arizona had their chances, but they couldn't get it done. They actually outgained Utah by over 100 yards, but they had 5 turnovers to Utah's 2. So turnovers were certainly the story of the game in this one, but we almost got this upset pick correctly. But started off the week with an incorrect pick, which wasn't helped by the second game that we had. That was number 16 TCU going on the road against number 6 Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was a big 11.5-point favorite. I did pick TCU to cover the spread. However, I had Oklahoma State winning, and TCU ends up winning 44-31, which I don't think many people were expecting at all. The teams were actually pretty even in terms of yardage. But again, turnovers, a big factor. Oklahoma State turns it over 4 times to TCU's 1. And TCU jumped out in front 6-0 with 2 field goals. Oklahoma State came back with a touchdown to take the lead. But halfway through the second quarter, TCU ends up with a 20-7 lead. And it just never really got back in Oklahoma State's favor after that. Because at no point after that does it become a 1-score game until with 3 minutes left, Oklahoma State scores to make it 37-31, but that is quickly answered with a TCU touchdown that put this game away. So very impressive game for TCU on the road. Not a very good look for the Big 12 because Oklahoma State was supposed to be the team behind Oklahoma. TCU wasn't getting a lot of respect, but who knows, maybe they actually are that team and this wasn't a fluke. Certainly doesn't look like it if you win like that on the road in a big game like this. So we got the pick wrong on that one, but got the spread right. And then we had Duke going on the road to take on North Carolina. North Carolina was a 2.5-point favorite. I picked North Carolina to win and cover the spread. Got both of that incorrect as Duke wins 27-17. I just figured North Carolina is the better team, better program. They would get it done even though their record wasn't that great. And Duke was undefeated. But Duke hadn't really played anybody prior. But Duke ends up winning by 10. And they just beat them flat out. It was a pretty good game after 3 quarters, but Duke pulls away with a touchdown with 4 minutes left after taking the lead just 2 minutes prior. So Duke gets it done on the road against North Carolina, moving us to 0-3 straight up to start the week. But we bounce back because the last 5 games from last week we all got correct. Starting with Michigan as a 10-point favorite going on the road to take on Purdue. Michigan was number 8, by the way. Yeah, I said it last week. Purdue's obviously a very much improved team. They made some huge strides already in this young season. But Michigan's just too good to have that talent gap closed in 1 year. So Michigan was actually trailing in this game 10-7 at halftime. They lose their starting quarterback to injury, but their backup comes in and looks great. Their offense actually scores in the red zone a couple times, as I said they would. That was pretty much the difference. Michigan's defense is obviously one of the best in the country, and once their offense starts getting in the end zone, not a lot of teams are going to have a chance against them. Michigan ends up winning 28-10. Purdue only had 189 yards of offense and only 8 first downs. Michigan really dominated this game on both sides of the ball, but they did turn it over twice, which is another reason why the score wasn't as lopsided as it could have been. But Purdue scored all their points in the first half. In the second half, I believe they had negative 16 yards rushing and only a handful of yards overall in the second half. So Michigan did a great job shutting them down. Purdue had some big plays with some trickery, but not enough to stay in it throughout the game. Michigan ends up pulling away early in the fourth quarter. So pick right, spread right. Then we had number 3, Oklahoma, going on the road to take on Baylor. Oklahoma was a 27.5 point favorite, and I called this my lock of the week that Oklahoma was going to cover. And somehow they found themselves in a dogfight with Baylor, who are awful. And I said last week I didn't think they would even win a game this year. Somehow they rose to the occasion to hang in there with Oklahoma, especially when Oklahoma jumped out early to a 21-7 lead after the first quarter. A lot of teams would fold at that point, especially when you're having as bad of a season as Baylor is. But you got to give them credit. They ended up actually taking the lead near the end of the third quarter. But then Oklahoma rattled off 3 straight touchdowns to really put it away. Baylor ended up scoring 10 more points in garbage time to make it look a little closer, but still, Baylor actually covers the spread, so we got that wrong, got the lock wrong. But we got the pick right, obviously. But yeah, just a pretty shocking performance from Baylor out of nowhere. I figured, A, they're awful, B, Oklahoma's pretty damn good, and C, there's a lot of payback coming to Baylor this year from the Big 12 if those teams are in position to do so. Remember when Baylor would beat everybody 63-10 every week? Yeah, teams remember that. And they're going to be wanting to give it back to Baylor this year if they're in position to do so. And I thought Oklahoma would be in that position to really lay it on them this week. But, for whatever reason, either Oklahoma played down a little or Baylor just did a really good job of stepping up. So, yeah, maybe, if Baylor plays like this, they will win some games. But nothing in the first 3 games indicated that they could play like this. But they managed to really give Oklahoma a pretty good game for the majority of it. Then we had number 17, Mississippi State, hitting the road to take on number 11, Georgia. I picked Georgia to win, but I picked them not to cover the 5.5 point spread, which they do because they win 31-3. I don't know. I said it last week. I'm not going to go on another SEC rant, but I pretty much gave you all my thoughts on the SEC. And this is another example. I don't know what the hell is going on in that conference. Mississippi State destroys LSU. They emerge as one of the legitimately good teams in the SEC, perhaps, and then they face another one of these legitimately good teams, and they get destroyed by them. So I guess they really aren't a part of that conversation, which leaves maybe Alabama and Georgia as it for the SEC. Anyway, Georgia wins 31-3, pretty much just domination from Georgia. Mississippi State only turned the ball over twice. Georgia did it once themselves. It was just a beating, especially in the second half. It was actually only 14-3 at halftime, but Georgia did the rest of their scoring just in the third quarter itself, and the game was pretty much over. And then we had number 4, Penn State, hitting the road to take on Iowa at night. I said last week the 12.5 point spread for Penn State was pretty ridiculous, actually. Especially when you look at what happens at night in Kinnick Stadium. It's just a tough environment. They hang in there with everybody. They beat a bunch of teams they're not supposed to beat in that environment. And what do you know? Penn State ends up only winning by 2, so we got the pick right and the spread right. And quite frankly, Penn State should have lost. They actually outplayed Iowa. That's not a surprise. But when you have the lead and a team's at 4th and goal with no time left, at that point, you are supposed to win. Iowa was in the position to win that game, as ugly as it was. And, you got to give credit to Penn State. They got the play, they got the touchdown, they got the win. Iowa nearly pulled it off. They ended up losing 21-19 in a ugly defensive battle. The score at halftime was 7-5 Iowa. That pretty much says it all. You can't put too much weight in games like this. Like I said, Iowa's like a completely different team at home at night. But, Penn State, they've looked vulnerable. That Pittsburgh game, yeah, the final score was big, but if you actually watched it, Penn State wasn't some dominant team. Pittsburgh had a lot of unforced turnovers. Their quarterback was awful. And Penn State, they looked all right, but Pittsburgh's terrible. And then here on the road against Iowa's going to be an all right team, middle of the pack, probably in the Big Ten. And like I said, when you're down with no time left on the clock, you should lose. But, like I said, you still got to give them credit. They pulled off the touchdown. They got the win. But yeah, we'll see going forward what happens with Penn State. I had them losing 3 games entering this season. I would be surprised if they lose 3 now because they looked a little better than I expected, but I still expect them to lose at least 1, if not 2. And then finally, the last game from this week was Notre Dame taking on Michigan State. Notre Dame was a 4-point favorite on the road. I said last week that this game might determine who makes it to 6 wins because I don't think Michigan State's much better from last year despite beating up 2 bad teams. That looks to be the case. Notre Dame wins 38-18, and don't let the box scores fool you. Michigan State actually outgains Notre Dame by almost 150 yards, and they had 11 extra minutes of time in possession, but they had 3 turnovers. So you might say, oh, well, that was the difference. But no, not really. If you actually look at this game, Notre Dame lets their foot off the gas. They are leading this game 28-7 at halftime. Michigan State gets a field goal to make it 28-10 early in the third. And with 8 minutes left in this game, Notre Dame's leading 35-10. Michigan State gets the ball 3 times after being down 35-10 with 8 minutes left, and they get 233 yards on those 3 drives. So you take that away, they barely had over 200 yards of offense after 52 minutes. So this box score is actually really deceiving. Watch the game. Michigan State got dominated. They didn't look good at all. Brian Lewerke looks awful against a real defense. He stares down receivers. He threw a pick 6 early. Notre Dame took a 14-0 lead. They had the fumble at the goal line. Michigan State did. Even if you give them that one, the final score of this game was still probably going to be at least 38-25 because I think it's clear that if Notre Dame had to keep scoring, had Michigan State not turned the ball over a number of times, that they could have because Notre Dame's offense kind of marched up and down the field on Michigan State. Wimbush, who's not really a great passer. He goes 14 for 20 through the air on him. And Notre Dame had 182 yards rushing. It was just all Notre Dame. They actually look a little better than I expected, but I still don't think they are a top 15 team or anything. I just think Michigan State's more of that team that we saw last year than they were not. And I think this game proves it. And I think Michigan State's going to have a tough time in Big Ten play, and this game confirms that for me. So last week we were 5-3. And straight up, who would win, who would lose. That moves us to 30-13 straight up overall on the season. We went 4-4 against the spread last week, which puts us to 24-21 against the spread so far this year. And we got the upset wrong, and we got the lock wrong this week, which puts us at 1-2 for upsets and 2-2 for locks. So let's take a look at this week. Like I said, the smallest collection of games so far this year, only 7. There are 3 top 25 matchups, but not a whole lot outside of those. The first game that we will be talking about this week. The first game is actually on Friday night. It's a late start. If you're on the East Coast, it's 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's number 5 USC going on the road to take on number 16 Washington State. USC is only a 3.5 point favorite. And I'm going to say this. Out of the 3 top 25 matchups, we have USC at Washington State, Clemson at Virginia Tech, and Mississippi State at Auburn. Somebody's getting upset this week. One of those 3 teams are getting upset this week. USC, Auburn, or Clemson. One of them's going down. I don't know who, but I can almost guarantee you one of those 3 teams is losing this week. Wouldn't surprise me if none of them do, but I'm feeling pretty confident that one of them is going down. And it could very well be USC. Because quite frankly, after 4 games, I don't know what USC is. And when you're going on the road at night against a team like Washington State, I don't think Washington State is a Pac-12 champion contender, but they're a pretty damn good team. And when you're facing a top 5 team like this, at home, at night, I like Washington State's chances, actually. That said, I'm going to give USC the benefit of the doubt. I say they win, And I say they cover the 3.5 point spread just because that's such a small margin. I mean, 1 touchdown, 7 points. So I'm going with USC to win and cover, but I would not be surprised in the slightest if Washington State wins outright. That would be a huge win for Washington State. And again, you just don't know what to expect out of USC. Washington State's actually looked really good in all of their games except for the Boise State game where they won in triple overtime. And USC looked really good against Stanford, but Stanford's proven not to be that great. And then against Western Michigan, they looked not good for more than half of that game. They ended up looking good late and pulling away. Against Texas, they didn't look that good. I do think that Texas is getting better, though, this year. I don't think that looks awful, but still, they went to double overtime to beat them. Then last week against Cal, they only win 30-20, so look out if you're USC. Like I said, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. This is the type of game that Washington State usually disappoints, but would it not surprise me to see Washington State wins, but I got USC covering that 3.5. Then we have Vanderbilt going on the road to take on number 21 Florida. Florida is a 10-point favorite. Vanderbilt got destroyed against Alabama. Whatever, that's going to happen. But that obviously proves that Vanderbilt is not that much improved despite their 3-0 start. And Florida is coming off of a close win on the road against Kentucky. So neither of these teams look great. Of course, Florida supposed to win the East. This is another game that wouldn't surprise me to see the underdogs flat out win, but I'm going to go with Florida at home. But I'm going to go with Vanderbilt to cover that 10-point spread. Not a whole lot to get into about this game, so we're moving on to another SEC matchup. Another game I wouldn't be surprised to see the underdog win. It's number 7 Georgia going on the road as a 7.5-point favorite to take on Tennessee. Tennessee has proven not to be good almost at all. They were struggling with UMass. Mass. Anyway, this would not surprise me to see Tennessee win just because it's one of those games that Tennessee just wins. And it's one of those games that Georgia just loses. But I'm giving Georgia the benefit of the doubt to win and cover the 7.5-point spread. I think Georgia is legit, and if they lose this game, I'm done with the SEC. Completely done with it. Because if Georgia loses to Tennessee, that just proves that this conference is Alabama and a bunch of teams that wouldn't even compete for a conference title in any other conference out of the Power 5 conferences. Anyway, on we go. Upset alert of the week. I'm going with the Hawkeyes coming off that tough loss against Penn State, going on the road to take on Michigan State after getting clobbered by Notre Dame. This game's in East Lansing. It's a 4 o'clock game. You can argue that Michigan State's going to come back. Both teams have a reason to come back strong. I think Iowa's a better team. I don't care if it's on the road and Iowa's not that great on the road. I still think Michigan State's not good. I think they're going 3, maybe 4 wins at most in the Big Ten, and this is going to be one of the losses. Give me Iowa as a 3.5-point dog, beating Michigan State on the road as my upset of the week. There's going to be a couple upsets this week, because every single game that I'm predicting, except for one, I think the underdog has a pretty darn good shot at it. Moving along, we got number 24, Mississippi State, going on the road to take on number 13, Auburn. Another SEC matchup, another one where you just look at it and go, who the hell knows? Quite frankly, who the hell cares? Mississippi State looked like a legit contender after their LSU game. Now they're coming off a week where they look like they are back to what you thought they were. Taking on number 13, Auburn, who's supposed to be pretty good, but who really knows? Because the only test they've had, they lost. So Auburn's a 9-point favorite. At home, give me Auburn to win, but give me Mississippi State to cover the 9 points just because I don't know what's going on in the SEC. Second to last, this real quick week this week. There's not a lot to talk about in terms of these upcoming games. We got this is my lock of the week, by the way. Number 11, Ohio State, going on the road against Rutgers. I said I was done with Rutgers more than likely because I didn't think they'd win another game, and they go and get beat by 10 against Nebraska last week, so I still don't think they're going to win another game this year. But this one stuck out to me as my lock of the week. This game is on the road in New Jersey, a night game. Ohio State's a 29-point favorite. Give me Ohio State to cover that 29, and that's my lock of the week. If Ohio State wins this game by less than 29, they should be embarrassed. I don't think Ohio State's a great team this year. I really don't. But you need to beat Rutgers by more than 29. I don't care where the game's played. That's the bottom line. And by the way, just for reference, all my locks this year have been a team covering the spread in a win. I'm not ruling out ever picking a lock for an underdog. For example, I picked Vanderbilt to cover that spread against Florida, the 10-point spread. If I felt strongly enough about that, that might be my lock of the week. That a losing team actually covers a spread that I find stupid. But so far, it's just been all favorites. But that's just a coincidence. Anyway, number 11, Ohio State will cover the 29 against Rutgers. That's the lock of the week. Which brings us to the final game of this week. It's number 2, Clemson, going on the road to take on number 12, Virginia Tech. It is a night game, 8 p.m. Eastern. And again, with all of these games, except for the Ohio State game, would not be surprised at all if the underdog wins. Virginia Tech, at home, at night, conference game. Actually surprised the spread is as high as it is. I said last week Clemson is legitimately a good team. I think they have proven that. But Virginia Tech has also proven they're a legitimately good team. And when you got this top 25 matchup at home at night, give me Virginia Tech to cover the 7. But since I think Clemson is a legitimate national title contender, give me Clemson to win on the road against Virginia Tech. I think this game will be great. Last time I said that about a Clemson game, they went in and blew out the other team, Louisville. But I legitimately think this will be a good game, and I legitimately think it may come down to the last possession. Again, wouldn't be surprised if Virginia Tech pulls it out, but give me Clemson to win, Virginia Tech to cover. Thank you so much for watching. Short video this week, not a lot of games to get into. In my reviews, I kept pretty quick because I'm a little late on recording, so I apologize for that if for some reason you enjoy my analysis and were disappointed by the lack thereof in this video. As always, be sure to subscribe for next week as we break down all these games I just predicted and pick some more for that week. And as always, be sure to comment below with your thoughts on my predictions and give me some of yours as well. And once again, relax if I didn't pick your team. I can't stand some of the comments I get on my channel. Especially with my NCAA 14 game simulations, as if I'm controlling the simulation or the result of it means fucking anything. All those comments drive me nuts, man. Those comments drive me nuts on those videos. Especially people that come back after the fact, like, yeah, your sims suck. Look at that, we won. Like, dude, I don't fucking care. It's a 4-year-old video game that I literally just set up, record, edit, and put together. I put no thought into who wins, who I want to win. It doesn't matter. The videos are just fun. The games are fun to watch. Well, some of them. And I just put them up for, fans of those teams to watch and maybe discuss or whatever. But people get so offended over it that it drives me up the wall. That's why I turn ratings off on those videos. So the first couple ones I did, I would get like 7 thumbs down to like 4 thumbs up because fans of the team that lost this fake fucking video game simulation were mad and down, thumbs down my video. It's like, what are you fucking doing? If you like the video, if I put some time into editing and making it, don't be a dick and thumbs it down just because your team lost a fucking video game simulation. By the way, the record on those things have been pretty good this year. So if I ever put out some more, which I will for some big games, probably not any this week, but maybe the Clemson and Virginia Tech one. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't know. Maybe do get offended because they do have a pretty good record this year in terms of the results of them. I was actually upset. The last one I did was Clemson at Louisville, and Clemson blew them out. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen. It's dumb. But again, I'm never going to re-record them or redo them just because I didn't like an outcome. So I just edited it to make it as short as possible because I thought it was dumb. I even posted a comment like, sorry, this one sucked, whatever. But no, it actually turned out to be pretty damn close to what actually happened. So yeah. Anyway, as I said, thank you guys for watching. And as always, I will see you all next week.